Hello.
Welcome to Masters of Motorsport with me, Paul Smith.
And myself, Mark Smith.
Today we're going to discuss one of the most exciting talents in Formula 1 at the moment, ex-world champion in 2008. We are, of course, talking about Lewis Hamilton. So, as I say, won the World Championship in 2008. He came onto the scene in Formula 1 in 2007 after winning the GP2 series in 2006. But, as many people have surely been told, he did approach Ron Dennis at the Autosport Awards when he was 10 years old, and he says, one day I want to be racing your cars. It says on my notes there. So, lo and behold, a few years later, Ron gave him an old ring and signed him up for his team to progress through the McLaren structure.
An old ring.
The old ring. Then, of course, 2007 gets its debut season in Formula 1 with Fernando Alonso as his teammate in that season. Fernando, I don't think really expected much of a challenge from Lewis. Not a lot of people did actually expect much from Lewis that year.
Well, I think a lot of people were sort of, oh look, it's another new driver in Formula 1. So they expected him to probably be, well, he's in a McLaren, he might be midfield. Possibly, I think was the thing before they started.
I think it was sort of expected that he'd score points for McLaren, but it was expected that Fernando Alonso would take the lead in terms of driving for McLaren.
But then what Fernando didn't expect was for Lewis to be an absolute match for him in every respect.
We like that.
On his first season in Formula 1, in the same car as Fernando, because McLaren operate an equal policy.
Absolutely.
There's no first team driver, second team driver. You're all the same, lads. Get to it.
So, 2007, Lewis Hamilton was involved in the title challenge along with his teammate Fernando Alonso and the drunk finishman Kimi Raikkonen. Lewis famously overtook Kimi at the first corner at the Malaysian Grand Prix, much to the surprise of everyone, because Kimi was known as being a bit of a hard charger.
Well, apparently he is, but he didn't win that time.
No, but later on in the season, of course, there was the whole scandal, the controversy about McLaren with their, and I hate using this, Spygate.
Dirty.
With the whole Ferrari thing.
Basically, an engineer used to work for Ferrari, went to McLaren, he happened to know some things about Ferrari, put him on the McLaren.
Well, he had a dossier about all their policies.
He had a 700-page book.
Yes, and basically, so McLaren got fined $100 million and were thrown out of the Constructors' Championship, but they were kept in the Drivers' Championship.
Yes, they were, because it wasn't the drivers, it was the team that were at fault.
Even though Fernando Alonso knew about it all and was actually involved in the investigation. Ooh, controversy with Fernando Alonso.
Controversy!
So, finished up Brazilian Grand Prix, last Grand Prix of the year. Lewis Hamilton was looking in a good position to win the title, but then he had a bit of a gearbox problem with his car and he had no drive for about 40 seconds, I think it was.
Yeah.
And ended up finishing outside the places where he needed to finish and lost the championship by one single point to Kimi Raikkonen winning the championship. Alonso finishing on the exact same points as Lewis, proving that Lewis was actually a match for Fernando.
Although my main memory about that race was that I was on holiday in Mexico watching this.
There seems to be a theme about you going on holiday for the Brazilian Grand Prix.
Anywho, we were in holiday, Mexico, obviously Spanish speaking. A lot of Spanish people go there for holidays, and of course they all wanted Fernando to win. As soon as Lewis had his trouble with his drive, they were all shouting, "Yeah, look at you Brits, you rubbish!" like that. And then Kimi won, and I just sort of looked at my wife and said, well, I'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't particularly like Fernando Alonso. Then the following season, of course, 2008, the big season for Lewis Hamilton. The season that he won the World Championship with some spectacular driving, once again, from Lewis. He did have a couple of accidents along the way, like crashing into the back of Kimi Raikkonen in the pit lane at Canada.
On the red light.
On the red light, yes.
He was entirely at fault, and Lewis was fully compensated. That's his insurance details.
Fill out on that little box at the bottom.
Need on that box.
Yeah. So he had that little accident, and he really sort of had to fight for the championship to the end, of course. And famous last race again at Brazil. Were you on holiday for this?
No, I wasn't for that one. No, that was good. One time I wasn't.
So Brazilian Grand Prix, last lap of the race. Lewis is one place behind where he needs to be.
Felipe Massa's family and friends all in the Ferrari garage going.
Felipe Massa crosses the line. At that point, yes, he was world champion. But it was raining.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone had gone into the pits for wet tyres, apart from Timo Glock in the Toyota, who was struggling around like people driving on ice. And eventually, second to last corner of the Grand Prix, Lewis. That's a bit of a shocker. Lewis went and overtook Timo Glock. Everyone in the McLaren pit went over the moon. The Ferrari team was still celebrating, apart from one guy who came along and went, no!
At which point a mechanic headbutted a wall.
Yes.
On TV.
Yes. It was one of the most exciting points of Formula 1 history, I would say, from my memory.
I don't think the title has ever been decided that close to the end of a race, in my memory anyway. I think it's always been 2 races before, 7 races before the first race. Something like that, but never on the last corner of the last race of the season. And it just wrapped up the whole season for everybody, really.
Absolutely, and it was a thoroughly deserved championship win for Lewis. 2009, it wasn't a good season for the McLaren. The car wasn't developed, but they put in some really good development work and got the car winning towards the end of the season. 2010, he was a title contender, but just he fell out of the title. He had a couple of crashes at the Italian Grand Prix and at the Singapore Grand Prix that cost him possibly the title chance, at least. And so I finished, what was it, third in the championship? Third in the championship. A good effort from him. So we like you, Lewis, a lot.
Well done, mate.
And you can follow him on Twitter, by the way.
Lewis for real, I believe it is.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So anyway, that's the end of Masters of Motorsport for this time. Why not join us next time for another Masters of Motorsport? Bye-bye. Hold this for about 30 seconds. What are we doing next? I'm still doing this.
I'm still on the telly.
We definitely